Hey, just bought my tickets to Bitcoin First. Well, bought my plane tickets. I already had my Bitcoin First tickets. Super excited. I hope you guys all come. I think it'll be a really awesome event. I'm not usually big on like Bitcoin events. I actually tend to stay away from them. But this is going to be one for the ages. Really excited. Looking forward to meeting all of the usual suspects and Punter Jeff. I think Ryan's going to be there. Obviously, Doc Kruger and Grain of Salt. Can't wait. Really can't wait. This is a short video on selling naked puts. Someone mentioned it to me, and I had already done the back test, so I decided to put it into video format. Jeff in the Quant Bros episode made sure to point out that selling naked puts is a bullish strategy, and on MicroStrategy, it's performed quite poorly. So that I'm always interested in the option stuff. So let's hop into it. This is what you're looking at here. So I did a bull market selling puts example, and this is your weekly premium of selling puts. And so there's different ways to sell puts. Like you might want to lock in a price, a purchase price, and receive a premium if you're looking to scale into a position. That's completely different than what I'm talking about. That's like puts as a way to enter into a position. Fantastic, great play. It's definitely in line with the idea that you can't time the market, but you're actually lowering your cost basis almost automatically, unless you're like DCAing in, which could arguably be better if you think the price is going to decrease. But regardless, this is like a active, automatic selling naked put strategy. And as you can see here, these so how to read this graph? The price chart is just in the background. It doesn't represent, it's lined up with the weeks, but it doesn't represent anything on the front chart. The front chart shows you the weekly premium for each of these weeks that you receive by buying these cash secured for selling these cash secured puts. And then this is the percentage you lose on these weeks when you have to purchase at 10% out of the money for MicroStrategy. So you can see MicroStrategy took a huge loss over this week, almost a 50% loss from peak to trough here. And that was about roughly, it looks like a week's worth of time. And you can see this, your hit would have been substantial considering you had the obligation to buy MicroStrategy 10% down from its peak, whereas it went all the way down. And if you didn't have a stop loss or anything like that, you would have gotten annihilated and you would have lost about 6% of your portfolio that week. And so that's not that big a deal, right? Because you've got all these other up weeks. But regardless, it goes to show you, there's other weeks that are equally as catastrophic. It looks like this week didn't line up perfectly, so you wouldn't have caught this whole drop. But it looks like this week lined up well, such that you bought a real high and then had to sell on a real low. And all that goes, again, these are just kind of visual charts, but the backtest percentage results, these are accurate in terms of like each of the weeks I tested, and I tested the weeks on this graph. So let's go to the next test. This is, so that was kind of the chop bull market here. So again, yeah, puts, selling naked puts, great in a bull market, great in the sense that, I don't know, you take less risk, but it seems like a joke to like, I would not be selling naked puts into a bull market when you could just hold the shares and outperform. So let's bear market. And that's something people consider. It's like, okay, can I sell a put and during a bear market, get that premium, hold cash? Like let's say I really thought MSTR topped and I want to hold cash like a lot of people are doing now, which in my opinion is a silly move. Holding Bitcoin, holding MSTR, holding cash right now or holding Bitcoin instead of MSTR with the intention of rebuying into MSTR, I'm just going to put it out there. I know people have their different opinions. In my opinion, I think that's suicide. I think that's absolute suicide. But here is a selling weekly naked puts. And obviously, when the trend is down, you're going to have a lot of weeks where MSTR's price falls below your out of the money put price, and you're required to purchase the shares at that at that strike price. And so, I want to go over this again. When you're selling a naked put, you have the obligation to buy MicroStrategy at a certain price. If the weekly close falls below that price and you don't have a stop loss, then you're obligated to buy above the fair market value of MicroStrategy, right? So if MicroStrategy is at 800, it falls to 400 in a week, and your strike was at 750, you now have to buy MSTR at 750, okay? And this is the bear market performance. So, and these are P&L. This is a P&L on the y-axis, and that's a total percentage gain or loss in your portfolio. So week one, you would have been all right. You would have been down 2%. You're fine. Or sorry, you're up. You collect the premium. You're up 2%. Week two, you get smoked. You're down 12%, so 10% cumulatively. The next week, you get absolutely smoked again. Let's assume you're doing this in a tax advantage account. You rebuy the MicroStrategy shares here when they're assigned, and then you sell them, hold cash, and you go to sell your next put. Boom, you get smoked 5% down. Your portfolio is now down over 17%. Next week, you get hit with a 2% whack. The next week, you get hit with a 5% whack. So this clearly is not, this is a pretty tough situation. And the reason I'm explaining this is I know people who are familiar with options know, like, okay, yeah, selling puts is a bullish strategy. But for me, I didn't know. I thought maybe selling puts would be cool. It would be a great decision in a bear market. And this really helped illustrate for me. And then I was like, okay, what about in a chop market? These sideways chop periods where you think MSTR is not going to do anything crazy. And, this wouldn't have gotten you the returns. You can just see how MicroStrategy performed, right? It's done over a 3x. It's done a 3x in this time period, 2020, end of 2022 to beginning 2024. You would have been returning like 2% a week, 2% a week, getting smoked on a couple weeks, 2% a week, 2% a week. So you would have gotten clobbered. And that's kind of my point is, in summary, I think it's important to keep things simple. I really believe that. And if this does nothing else, then it reminds you, then you can focus your energy on not selling naked puts on a weekly time frame. If you do want to scale into a position or collect a premium with the intention of buying MicroStrategy lower, selling a put or puts to scale in, it's fantastic. But that's a lot different than holding cash, right? Than holding cash and selling puts, naked puts for premium. And that's the other part is, like, if you could sell I say naked puts here, I don't mean that. I mean cash secured puts. If you could sell actual naked puts, you could really lever up. Like, you could be long calls and be selling like puts and be like extra long, but that's obviously insane leverage. But here, if you're holding cash secured puts, there's a ton of opportunity cost associated, and this graph clearly demonstrates the opportunity cost associated with holding a cash position and collecting a weekly premium versus holding the underlying and just stomaching the volatility. That's the long way of saying that cash secured puts are interesting and something you should look into, but not spend that much time on because they don't seem to be super profitable. Definitely was a tough week for me, just thinking about MicroStrategy and all the talk on Twitter. What I did, sometimes you just have to like really rethink. And full disclosure, I'm like long calls with I think like 40% of my, at this point after this week, I think I'm long like 40% of my portfolio in long calls. So that's good. That's exciting. Super excited to see everyone at Bitcoin First and looking forward to the next couple months.